IPO valuation of something in the area of $60 billion. That's bigger than Honda's market cap. It comes as many question EV valuations. And just last month, Tesla CEO Elon Musk took to Twitter with this question. Is it possible to start an EV company without shipping any cars and get a valuation less than $1 billion? So is the EV market upside down? Phil LeBeau has more. Hey, Phil.
Hey, Tyler, let's take a look at what we're expecting from Rivian. This IPO could happen as soon as next week. The roadshow began today. This will be listed on the NASDAQ. RIVN is the ticker symbol. Target price, $57 to $62 a share, $135 million shares. You mentioned a $60 billion valuation. It's going to be at least $53 billion. It's going to be maybe north of that, and that could get up to the $60 billion range. Let's do some comparison of Rivian versus the IPO valuations for Tesla back in 2010 and Lucid. And look how things have changed over time. Heard Elon Musk tweeting there about, deliveries at the time of valuation. Well, remember back then they only had a few deliveries, relatively few, compared to where they are now. Of the Roadster, 1,000 deliveries. Lucid just began deliveries on Saturdays. Rivian, we put 0 here. They started deliveries. They tell us they started deliveries in September. How many have they delivered? We're not entirely sure. All of this in the rising valuations comes at a time when people are looking at the global EV market in terms of where it is right now, which is just about 5% of global sales, overall auto sales, and where it's expected to be by 2030. Look at that chart. That's the reason you're seeing valuations skyrocket. Take a look at shares of Tesla year to date. It has 63% of the U.S. EV market, and it's been the acceleration in EV sales and the expectation of accelerating EV sales that has really been the fuel behind this stock moving higher. So guys, yes, I know there are a lot of people who are out there today saying, boy, Rivian's going to have a valuation better than Honda. How can that be? That's just the market that we're in right now when it comes to electric vehicle companies.
Phil, it's also interesting that, the Journal and others are pointing out there's a lot of aspirations for all of these companies who, are still just in the early days. They have to kind of get the production, and that's the hardest part. And you go back to what Bernstein was saying today, Tony Sacconaghi, about Tesla, and he's got an underperform on it. But he was saying it's still impressive what they've managed to do in terms of gross profit margins in the middle of this supply crunch. So, they've kind of taken 10 years to get to this point. Everybody else, I just wonder how quickly they'll be able to get to scale. You know what I mean?
Well, the market is much more developed, Kelly, than it was back when Tesla was starting out. Look, Elon Musk early on said this is what we need. And to a large extent, he and his team at Tesla helped develop that market. I mean, they really are the ones who created a lot of the EV market. Rivian has already started production at its plant in central Illinois. It's got a plant, it's got production, it's got Amazon owning 20% stake in the company, which has already taken delivery of electric delivery vans. So the market is much more developed, and it's going to be much easier to a certain extent for a company like Rivian to ramp up sales than it was for Tesla 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's well said. Again, Tesla shares down 3.5% today after this run. Phil, we appreciate it. Thank you. Phil LeBeau with the very latest. Ahead on Power Lunch, bracing for volatility. We'll speak with a strategist who says the market's in for some rough patches over the next year, and you should buy every single dip. Plus, Allbirds ditching its pledge for a sustainable public offering in order to keep its IPO plans on track. We'll explain that and more when Power Lunch returns.
I'll shoot